you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out on this warm summer's night. Antoinette, can I get a roll call?
Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Gagliano?
Here.
Mr. Rogan?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Williams?
Here. So the first item on tonight's agenda is a public information meeting on a cell tower that is being proposed at the recycling center. I do have a little bit of a presentation, as you can see, up that'll run through the history on this, and we'll open it up to public comment. So this whole project started way back in 2015 when the town became aware that Metro North was, or actually the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, was planning the construction of a telecommunication facility at Route 164 near the intersection of Bullet Hole Road. MTA was planning the construction of a tower to improve critical public safety communications through state-allocated radio channels and spectrum. The system was designed to address the state directive to have interoperability communications between all state, county, and city agencies as a result of several catastrophic incidents which had occurred in the recent past. At the intersection of 164, where Metro North's train tracks cross, MTA was proposing a 150-foot tower with 20-foot whip antennas. The 170-foot tower would be placed 200 feet from the front door of one of our residents' home. Up there on the slide, you can see the location that they were proposing it. That's just a rough location. It was actually proposed closer to the tracks. It was going to be a 20-foot wide by 100-foot long compound with a, as I said, 150-foot tower on it. That's a better view of exactly where they were going to place the tower. So, recognizing the impact that a 170-foot tower would have at this location, legislator Nasarino, who's here tonight, and myself began to have discussions with MTA concerning possible alternatives to mitigate the impacts that this tower would have. So initially, the town suggested that they move the location of the tower farther back onto the site. MTA's consultant flagged where they believed to be the Army Corps jurisdictional wetlands, which prevented MTA from moving the location of the tower any further back on the site. The town then suggested that rather than a single tower, that MTA might consider multiple towers at lower heights. We initially suggested a location off of Route 312 in the town of Southeast where a potential tower would go, where they had sufficient land. And we also started looking in the area of the Patterson Recycling Center. Here's a few slides which shows a visual analysis that MTA did of their potential cell tower. This is the view of Route 164 as it's heading west near the site. And this is a picture with the cell tower in it, superimposed. This is the approach to the bridge on 164 heading southeast. And you can barely see it, but the cell tower is in the middle of all those trees sticking up. So we started talking today to Metro North about potential locations, and they were interested. And so we started reaching out to individuals that provided towers. The one we selected at the time was Gotham Communications. We talked about the location at the recycling center. That's marked off as B, was the original location. We also looked at one that was on the other side of the ball field, but that very quickly was dropped from consideration. At the request of a resident, we also decided to evaluate a second location at the landfill, and that was designated on this slide by letter A. So these were the two sites that we started to look at. We worked with Gotham for a considerable time, and it didn't It didn't work out very well with Gotham. They were slow in responding, so we ended up going with a different company. We went, where are my notes? Anyway, we went with a second company, where, Homeland Towers, thank you. So we started to look at what the visual impact might be from Homeland Towers for putting a 160-foot cell tower at the recycling center. Homeland Towers did a visual analysis. This is the site, the Great Swamp Wildlife Management Area, and that is with the tower superimposed within that view shed. Here's Somerset Drive looking north. That's with the cell tower in it. I'll do it again so you can see it's right between the stand of trees. I don't know if you can see it popping up. This is when we did the balloon test. This is Cheshire Court. There's the cell tower positioned at location A. The balloon's at location B. These are the two locations. One showing the cell tower, what the view shed would look like with that cell tower imposed. Here's the view shed from the ball field down at the landfill. That's with the cell tower. That's again location A. Here's Cornwall Hill Road looking south. That's where the cell tower would be. Here is Longview Drive, the Astro subdivision, Vista Lane. And that's with the cell tower. This is from the highway garage and the cell tower right behind the barn. So this was basically, well, here's one more. This is Cornwall Hill Road. You can see the balloon where we're doing the balloon test. And there's the cell tower as it would be located at Site A. And this is a picture showing where the two cell towers potentially would be. Location A and location B. So as we're going through this process, it was also suggested that we take a look at another piece of property, the LabCorp property. You can see that location designated on this slide. It's kind of centrally located, and it's just south of the recycling center. Initially, Metro North said that that would be a suitable location and they would consider going there. About this time, though, Verizon pulled out of the deal to go at the recycling center. Verizon was also evaluating two other sites, one at the Baptist Church, also shown on this slide, and Verizon also pulled out of the deal with the Baptist Church as well as the recycling center. So at that point, we lost Homeland Towers. They were no longer interested in pursuing a cell tower at the Cornwall Hill site. And we thought at that point that Metro North was going ahead and building their tower at Route 164, when Wireless Edge, who was a vendor, a contractor, who was evaluating the Baptist Church site and one other site in town, approached the town about potentially putting the cell tower at the LabCorp site. And they did an extensive evaluation. I don't think we ever got to do the visual analysis, but they did a design out there. And they were working with Metro North. And it wasn't until very recently, about 2 weeks ago, that Metro North had the representatives from Wireless Edge, John Arthur, who was here tonight, myself, Ginny Nasarino, and told us with absolute certainty that they were not interested in the LabCorp site any longer, that they were not interested in pursuing it, and that they were expecting to see a cell tower built on the town property by December, or they were going to go build their Route 164 site. And so that's pretty much where we are in this process. I've got just a few more slides for you. This was a slide that was developed by Homeland Towers showing the potential coverage of the cell tower located at the Patterson Recycling Center site. And this is from Wireless Edge, their current proposal to put a cell tower at the recycling center. That's where it would be located, just to the southwest of the recycling sanitation building. Standard compound, you know, and a standard tower with a height of 160 plus the antennas. And that is pretty much what I have for everybody as far as an overview of what's been going on and why we are here tonight. I want to state also that the town board recognizes that there's no winners in this. If we had our way, there wouldn't be any more cell towers in the town of Patterson. Many of us feel that they are a blight on the landscape, myself included, but they are what everybody is looking for. They are the technology that everybody is using today. And it is going to get much more difficult in the town of Patterson as companies start to roll out 5G, which is going to demand a greater number of cell towers to provide the capacity to handle all the people that are going to be using those cell towers. So we can expect that not only here tonight, but that we will be seeing additional applications coming forward soon to provide additional towers just to provide the capacity for not only 4G but 5G. And with that, I will open it up to any remarks that the town board wishes to make on this application.
I have a couple directed more towards Wireless Edge. The monopole is going to be maybe you guys want to come up to the mic, if one of you is. The height of the tower is going to be 164 feet.
So just so we can introduce ourselves, I'm Jordan Fry from Snyder & Snyder, attorneys for Wireless Edge, and this is John Arthur from Wireless Edge. Can you address that? He was asking the height of the pole.
Yeah, we had planned on 166, and the way we came about that was originally Verizon had indicated 160 feet. We usually on our towers allow an extra 6 feet for municipal antennas, and we consider the MTA the municipal type antenna. It's a whip style, and a typical carrier antenna being upwards of 8 feet from the mount location up, that gives you 4 feet, which gives you an additional 2 feet for the mount, and that's how we arrived at that recommendation.
166.
Correct.
Now, does that include the MTA?
Yes. No, that's at the MTA mount. So the MTA, if they've got a 10-foot whip or a 20-foot whip, I'm not sure the exact size, that's above that.
Okay.
Now, if that's, I'm sorry,
Okay.
if that's not adequate, would you be adding?
Generally, for a tower that size, we would not design it to be extendable. So we'll design extra capacity for future carriers, but we design that down. And that's another reason why we want to make sure we have enough height to cover at least the 4 major carriers in the market with 10-foot separations.
The other site that was mentioned, Alcor?
LabCorp.
LabCorp, I'm sorry. LabCorp, you had looked at that
Correct.
and said no.
No, that's a fair site from our perspective. You know, I was on the site visit myself, I met with the property owner. It's just that the MTA came back all of a sudden and said they wouldn't entertain any other sites.
Okay, so
And they gave us
MTA
a very, very aggressive deadline to get it done.
Okay.
And just to be clear, the MTA, they're a state authority, so they can bypass zoning. So they really can, they have a lot of control over, they can build in their right of way, no issue. So I think what the town's objective was, and what Wireless Edge is doing, is finding a different site that's a little bit more acceptable to the town. But again, it's the MTA who can really drive, you know, where things go. And that needs to be really, that's something that everybody here needs to understand. And Wireless Edge is providing the infrastructure to put it on, you know, the recycling center. And they had no issue, Wireless Edge, with the other site, but it's really where the MTA dictates where they want to go.
All right, so LabCorp site is not good because MTA says we don't want to go there.
Correct.
And the recycling center is good because they're amenable to go there.
Correct. The MTA really gave the town no choice. They just said, recycle center, or we're doing our own thing on the 164 site.
Right.
Do their own thing. Sorry.
In the proposal, it talks about relocating some trailers or what have you down at the recycling center,
Yes.
where you're gonna just move them within the site?
They're not gonna move them at all, we're going to
Yeah,
move them.
town would move them.
They had some old truck parts in them, for the most part, they were vacant, we're not even sure why they're there. They're holdover from former highway superintendents.
Okay, okay. All right, so the MTA is with you fellas, and for the recycling center. Now, what is your timetable on this?
Here's where it gets tricky. The MTA wants to have the tower built by the end of the year and operational. So, backing into that, there's a number of things that have to be done. We have to, prepare construction plans. We have to go through the NEPA process. Now, fortunately, the NEPA, recent regulations have shortened that process a little bit. So, back in July, the FCC came out with new regulations that sometime in the past it might have been taking 6 months, 9 months to get through. Now it might be a month and a half. So that's actually improved the situation for the timeline. Construction plans, we're certainly in control of that timeline. We have to do a tower design. So we have to take the MTA specs and our own specs, get that to a tower manufacturer, and actually design the tower. That takes us about a week and a half or so. So again, we're in control of that. The biggest lead item is actually ordering the tower. So a tower takes about 2 months. So call it 6 weeks at the earliest, 8 weeks at the outside, which means we'd have to order the tower by October to have it on site and installed and operational. And the fortunate thing about this site is that there is power right there. So there's a transformer and a utility box. So power is right adjacent to the site, and there's utility poles that come partially into the property. So we can just add an additional, I believe, 2 poles to get to the site, and it would run along the back side of the property behind the building. So the utilities are also, it's a fortunate situation in that location. So we believe we can do it, but we have to hit everything pretty fast. And we've already started that process. So we've already crawled out on the limb a bit to get things moving with our vendors, so they know that, once we say go, they got to move fast.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions here. Is another balloon test necessary?
I don't believe so, we're still looking at the same locations, we're still looking at the same height for the most part.
Are we looking at the both A and B locations, or was one favorable to the other, according to the
Well,
slide?
that's still a discussion that we need to have. Right now, Wireless Edge is designing to the B site.
The one southwest of the recycling center.
Yes.
Does the planning board have to get involved in this?
No.
No. Okay. This is really almost a minutia type thing, but in here with the payment schedules that come along, who's going to monitor, if there's disagreement calls for a monthly payment or an annual payment? And
All financial goes through the supervisor's office with the assistance of the town controller. So it would be Trish and I.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any comments you wish to make?
Just that, we welcome the opportunity to work with the town. We know the town's in a bad spot. We're ready to jump in and get it done.
Are you going to do a balloon test at the other site?
I'm sorry, if you wish to be heard, you need to come up to the mic, give your name for the record so that we know who you are, and then we'll be happy to entertain any questions.
John Boyle, Somerset Drive. Are you going to do any balloon test at the original site on 164?
We did.
we do not have control over that site. That's owned by Metro North.
This gentleman does.
No, he does not. He is not gonna build the tower at 164 if that's the way this is going to go. Metro North is going to build that independent of anything going on in this room. They did do a very brief balloon test. I mean, we saw the visual at the beginning of the presentation for the limited visual analysis that they did. They didn't tell anybody they were doing it. So, I mean, I can provide you those slides. I believe I've provided it to one of your neighbors who has those slides. That's what they've agreed to do, and that's all they're willing to do at this point.
Okay.
Anybody else have any comments that they wish to be heard?
Whoop. Judy Kelly Moberg. Couple things are interesting. I would certainly support it going in on a recycle site. Initially, the 164 site, I'm speaking as a member of Friends of the Great Swamp, and we've been monitoring that rail line site for fall migrations for the past 7 years, and upwards of 2,000 to 3,000 ducks fly down through right over the trestle bridge. So it's right in the middle of a wetlands corridor, which would be probably pretty detrimental to have a cell tower there. The other concern I had about the one going up into the recycle area, is it a single pole?
Yes. It is
It's
a
not
single
one
pole.
of the big grid girder things?
No.
Does it have a light on top?
No,
So it doesn't require a flashing light either?
no.
Okay, so that's a preferable. And looking at the rail trail that's going to go along the old New Haven line, it's going to go right over that trestle bridge. And looking at their site plan, which is supposed to be from Beacon to Brewster, is supposed to be done by 2020. Okay, they have some possible parking area sites for people to have access to the trail there. And amazingly enough, one of them is exactly on 164, where the area where the cell tower is going to go. So everybody's looking at these tiny little pieces of land for many multiple uses. So I assume, I didn't know if anyone was aware of what their site plans were for the rail trail, but everything's sort of laying on top of everything else there. Just my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Legislator Ginny Nasarino, representing the town of Patterson. As you all know, as Richie had stated, we've been working, we've been working with MTA for the last 3 years. We've had several meetings, several conference calls regarding this issue. I too live on Somerset Drive, along with many of my neighbors here this evening, but it's not about me. I just have a question for the town board, because I'm questioning whether or not the lab court site was an authorized study by the town board, because I'm not really sure how that came to pass. Was that something that was authorized to
Well, when you
look
say
at?
authorized, I was approached by one of our residents, we were all aware. And I did at the time ask Homeland Towers to take a look at the
Okay.
LabCorp site as well.
Well, we thought that perhaps was an option up until our last conference call with Mr. Arthur and members of the MTA and some of the counties. So the MTA's needs are for interoperable communication to improve their cell and Wi-Fi, and also the 911 callability. They must adhere to very strict FCC rules, must apply for permits, etc., and it is a very long, tedious, and arduous process that could take a year or more. It took the county 2 years to get their frequencies. So now, if the MTA had decided to look at the LabCorp site, they had made it very clear during the last conference call that time was of the essence, and this was not feasible time-wise, financially, or objectively. And if they change course now, they would have to start all over again. So we're back to our original choices. We know that the Route 164 site is a parcel that belongs to MTA. They can easily erect the monopole there. But we also know as elected officials, and we are all very cognizant that should the monopole be erected at that site, it would literally be at someone's front door, which would severely impact and take away any equity that they had in their home, and that also for the surrounding neighbors. So I'd like to commend Supervisor Williams for leading the charge to explore another site. And I firmly believe that MTA, in good faith, did agree and look at the landfill site, which was a positive overture on their part. So now it's up for this town board to make this decision between the two sites. I support the landfill site for the obvious reasons stated. No site is a good site. No monopole is a good monopole. None of us want them. But conversely speaking, and speaking to some real estate agencies, the first question that a lot of new home buyers ask is if they have communication within their homes. Millennials do not want to buy a home that they have to go out on the porch to hear the cell phone or to have any digital equipment hooked up or any new technology within their home. So that's also something to think about. And just to be clear, the county has no skin in this game whatsoever. The county has already have their radio frequency communication piggybacked at the tower on Route 292 and also one in New Fairfield, Connecticut. I believe that our objectives, both from the county perspective and the MTA's perspective, are vastly different in that the county was looking to get radio frequencies and microwaves to support our fire police, our MTAs, and our first responders, whereas MTA is looking to improve our communication interoperability for the guidelines that they must adhere to as well. So now this town board is faced with making a decision, and my philosophy has always been decisions aren't always easy, but we must make a decision based on the greater good. Thank you for your consideration.
Make just a couple of brief comments before Bruce gets up and leads us in the next charge. I agree with Supervisor Williams' sentiments at the beginning of this meeting that there is no win-win on this situation. No disrespect to our gentleman here, I'm not a fan of cell towers, have not been since my time on the planning board, but it's obviously a necessity of our communications network that we have. And as Supervisor Williams stated, there's going to be more cell towers, unfortunately, down the road. Going back to our conversation, which was reiterated last meeting, I still think, regardless of what we're talking about tonight, that we need to revisit the RF professional and looking at our coverages in Patterson because of the need in the future for the greater communications. I saw a map recently at our Putnam County IT department, which outlined all of the cell towers in Putnam County that currently exist. Didn't even take into account the planned towers, just the ones that are, constructed and operational today, including the two new towers that Putnam County recently, which Ginny mentioned, which were at the Bureau of Emergency Services in Carmel and at the Kern building, which is where I work at the health department in Brewster. That's a 180-foot monopole. It took them, they broke ground September, and they're still just completing site improvements now. It went online, I think, a month or two ago, but they hit, of course, bad storms, bad weather, but it's hard to pigeon into that time constraint, as you mentioned. Everything has to be aligned perfectly. But I think when I looked at that map, I realized how many towers we have across Putnam County. It looked like there was 40 of them on the map. It looked like Swiss cheese all over the map, and I realized that if we add another how many in the next few years, we need to really know what those coverages are so that we have a chance at making sure that we have the minimum number needed to have effective communications in Patterson, certainly. And so I fully support continuing that effort to hire and to work with an RF expert. In this case, this stinks, quite honestly, because I think that, as someone mentioned in the back of the room, let MTA go forward. But there's people that live very close to the tower. There's no win for us in this. I think either way, our residents are hurt. And all we can do is probably figure out what is the least impactful or what is the best option of the two. I appreciate Ms. Moberg's comments, because that was my initial concern with the 164 site, was that's a known wildlife corridor for our migrations. I know she's done great work in tracking that, along with many other volunteers. I know Dr. Rudder is here, and I know that he would probably, shadow those comments and reiterate them. But so this leaves this board with a very difficult decision. I think that we need ultimately to figure out what are the impacts to the least number of people here and move forward. But unfortunately, I don't think this is the end of the discussion, because I think we're going to be having this conversation 6 months from now on some other cell tower, whether it's at the Patterson Baptist Church, at a fire department, someplace in Patterson. We're going to have another cell tower before us. So these are going to be ongoing conversations, and I wish I had a magic answer for it, but I think we're stuck making a decision based on impacts. And so not an easy decision, but again, as Ginny said, that's kind of why we're here. So this part comes along with the turf, so to speak. So thank you for giving me the time.
Sure, I agree. This is Sophie's choice for us. This is not a good situation to be in, where no matter what decision we make, somebody is going to be negatively impacted. As Bruce is walking up to the mic, I'll say nobody puts up a cell tower that isn't used. And so the cell towers are going up, people are going on them. And I happened to be sitting in Home Depot the other day, and at one side of Home Depot, there's a cell tower. And right across the way, there's another cell tower. Yeah, so there's
three there.
There's three of them right there, all in close proximity, all with people on them. And it used to be easy because we could get a coverage map and we knew where there was coverage and where there was not. Now it's turning from coverage to capacity. And we don't have a really good way as a town board or as a town to measure what the needs of capacity are. So it's going to be challenging moving forward. Yeah. Mr. Major.
Good evening, Bruce Major, 166 Somerset Drive, Patterson, New York. I'll first off by saying that I will see the cell tower at the recycling center. Other people who have spoken tonight have not indicated that they will also see the cell tower on 164 from their homes. So I think that's also important, that we know why people are standing here. As you know, I've been speaking on this issue for over 2 years. So I'm going to just do a little history, because I think it's important. First of all, when the balloon test was done by the MTA, the previous supervisor was in fact notified, but never notified the town board. So no one from the town ever went to see that test. Unfortunately, the county people were made aware. They were there. I am sure the supervisor was made aware. And in fact, someone working from the town actually told me that he was so informed but was told to stay away from there. Now, so I'm going to, a little history. September 23rd, 2015, a letter from Michael Cohn, who said, the town-owned property on Cornwall Hill Road would not be an appropriate pole site because it would create radio frequency coverage gaps in the area. He also, the Department of Environmental Conservation feared potential environmental damage from the membrane at the landfill site. So the second site that you're looking at, now I happen to be opposed to both of them. I know where some of you people live. I know why you're here tonight. I'm opposed to both of those sites. I'm pleased to hear that the gentleman from the cell tower company has indicated that LabCorp, and someone who's sitting here was one of the people that reached out to the owners of LabCorp and actually had them consider it. Now let me give you a little history of what's going on. We heard about the MTA, their position on the cell tower, but you should also know that the MTA has been given the authority from the governor to actually do the construction design for the rail trail. Okay, that rail trail is going to go through Brewster and up. And in fact, the construction for the town of Patterson is supposed to take place in the year 2019, and all the construction should be done now. LabCorp is a new business in our town. They're moving to a new location. It's the type of business that's seasonal. And I'm sure some of you have often listened on TV when you hear the people in Coney Island or Rockaway when they say that Labor Day weekend it's raining and they lose money for the year. He's in a seasonal business. His mortgage has to be paid 12 months out of the year. This is an excellent business. In essence, the town created a new law of what they called a floating district for recreation purposes. And that enabled the owners of LabCorp to actually purchase the property and use it for recreation. This will be adjacent to 311. Basically, their entrance will be where the 311 overpass is, okay? He is planning on doing several things that will enhance the people who are going to use the rail trail. He has talked about putting a small bicycle shop there. He's also talked about maybe a food court there. This is a business that we should be looking to support in the town. The town doesn't really need the revenue. It's not that much, and I've demonstrated to the town where there's other areas that they can save that more than make up that amount of money. So we now have an interesting situation. We're basically told, and I want to thank the gentleman from the cell tower company who has basically told us that yes, LabCorp is a good site. Okay? So what's really the problem with LabCorp? The problem seems to be with LabCorp is the MTA saying that these folks can't get it approved fast enough. Okay? That they can do something right away at the landfill site. Well, I'm going to suggest to you that this town board can. In fact, when they passed the law allowing this new district, they took away from the town planning board the authority, and actually they're the ones who approved that site to be within that district. This town board has the authority tonight to approve LabCorp for a cell tower. They do. Now, I know they're all looking and they're really annoyed with me, but they really do have that authority.
Not annoyed.
They can take that away from the planning board. As you've seen in the town of Southeast, the town of Southeast town board has often taken projects away from the planning board and gone through the approval processes. So what do we have here? We have a site that won't impact some of the people who are living here visually, or less visually. We have a site that'll actually help a new business in a new location, okay? And we have the town board who has the ability to approve the site. Now, the other thing, and I appreciate Sean's comments, but I can tell you that these requests for the overview go back a year and a half. I brought this up over a year and a half ago. This town had indicated that they were going to do it, or at least have the vendors provide that to you, which they never did. You also indicated that you were going to hire an RF guy, which you didn't do. What I'm suggesting to you is wrong that you're making a decision based on the fact that it's a last-minute decision. You should be going back to the MTA and saying, if you're going to be the construction manager for a recreational project going through the town of Patterson, and that we have a site there which will help enhance the use of that trail, that if we need an extra week or two to get the approvals, are you really going to say no? I really think that you have the authority to do it. And I find it's shameful, truthfully. It'd be one thing if the gentleman said, we've done the RA there, it won't work. Okay? I'm concerned when Metro North says there'll be radio frequency problems there. Okay? The federal government's paying for this. Homeland Security is putting up money for these systems for the MTA. Why would the federal government want to pay for a site, the recycling center, where there may be some interference? I find that troubling. So I think tonight the best thing that we can do is really ask you folks to say, and we certainly have a gentleman here who's indicated that that site is a functionable site. I also want you to think about the recycling center. There were two locations. I often, just so you know, I am the resident who often suggested the second location, which would have been closer to Cornwall Hill Road. The site that they're recommending is downhill. I'm sure some of you have been there. I don't know if any of you have gone back there. That is a very wet area, okay? Cell towers do fall. In fact, there are engineering firms who have said, like smart cars, cell towers are built to be economically sensible rather than built to be safe as possible. And they go on to explain how cell towers fall, that rivets break, and in fact, that often the underpinning fails. So we're basically saying their new site, now I understand why they're going, I understand why they're probably going a little closer south, because if they really wanted to go south to improve the service for MTA, LAPCO is the site. So what I'd really like this town board to do is really say to the folks here and make everybody happy that we want it at LAPCO and that we can make it happen at LAPCO, because you certainly have the authority to do that. Thank you very much.
Well, no, have a seat, because I'm going to respond to Bruce.
Okay.
So,
Up next.
yeah, Bruce, there are a number of statements that you made that need clarification. The town board doesn't have the authority right now to approve a site plan for a cell tower, nor under our zoning code do we have the ability to approve variances that would allow that tower to go in at LAPCO. Now, certainly, we could change our zoning code so that cell towers, there's no height limitation, and that we could, you know, put them in any district anywhere we wanted to, so we wouldn't have to worry about the variance procedure. But that would certainly open a very nasty door for, I think, a lot of residents in the town. And we also could sit here tonight and make a motion to introduce a local law, taking away site plan review authority from the planning board and passing it on to the town board for, you know, for our review. However, with the notification requirements, we couldn't hear that local law for 30 days. We'd have to put it up for, you know, public hearing. And I will tell you this, 30 days from now, it'll be too late. Metro North has already told us that if we're going to be sitting here at a table thinking about this in 30 days, they're building on Route 164. So don't get back up and try to tell us that this board has the authority tonight to approve the cell tower at the LAPCO site, because we don't.
Well, what I'd like to bring up is the fact that we have a situation where, once again, government can do what government wants to do, but we, the folks, can't do necessarily what we want to do. There is a building on Cornwall Hill Road that was built very close to the road. It never went to zoning. Matter of fact, I didn't even hear the planning board talk about it. And that's a pole building that was put up. And in fact, the town board paid for that. And that was a zoning issue, and yet it didn't go to the ZBA. My point is this, and this is the problem I have with government. When government says, the rules are for you, but they're not for us. And I see Sean looking, and I think Sean agrees with me. It's a problem. It's a problem we have. When government does something, and now we have a situation here where we have to accept this. Why? Because this is the only thing government can do. Now, they've had 1.5 years to work on this. All I'm suggesting is, and hopefully the newspaper people here will write something, and it would really be nice if we could get this down to the city of New York, because somehow I think if Metro North really knew that you folks were serious about putting it at LAPCO, that there is a benefit to the town by putting it at LAPCO, and there's a benefit to the rail trail, because we're going to assist in keeping that business functioning, which is a tremendous plus. If you look what's happened in the town of Southeast, the rail trail that comes all the way from the city of New York, I don't know if you're aware of that, comes all the way from the city of New York, on the west side of the county, it comes over through Yorktown, Route 6, and it basically ends at the railroad tracks in Brewster. Originally, they were going to put a bridge over, okay? Matter of fact, the clearing for the bridge is there. If you ever want to go there, you go to Kobackers, and if you know where Kobackers is, it goes a little past Kobackers, and you can see there is a straight line that leads across. But what did the county do? And I applaud the county for doing this. They said, you know, we need to humanize the rail trail a little more. we need to help revitalize the village of Brewster. So what do? They said, that bridge is out. So instead, they're going to use sidewalks and bring it down, and part of the new bridge that has to go over Route 6 by the firehouse, which is in terrible shape, they're going to make it wide enough so that the rail trail will actually cross there, go by the firehouse. It has to go back and forth a couple of times across that road, and then eventually we'll hook up to this rail trail, which will go from Connecticut up to Beacon. So that was smart for the county to do. What I'm suggesting here, it is as smart for this town to call for another meeting with Metro North and say, we will do everything to expedite this site because this site benefits our town and it provides the service that you said you needed, because in your own notes, you indicated that maybe the site at the town landfill won't provide the coverage without some problems. So I think this is not the meeting to decide this. I think this requires some other conversations. And I would hope that you would at least consider going back to Metro North and saying, you know, this is a better site for us. It's a better site for you. So I appreciate that.
Bruce, I will tell you that there were 3 people on that conference call with Metro North. We were all very surprised at how aggressive Metro North was and how adamant they were that they are not going to consider the LabCorp site. Don't throw that site out here anymore because it's not on the table with them. We have 2 choices here. There's a tower going up at 164. There's a tower going up at the recycling center. That's all that's here for discussion tonight. And for you to misrepresent the fact that we somehow can magically move it to LabCorp is patently unfair. And I'm surprised that you would do that.
Well, let me go a little further. It's interesting what happens when something gets into the news media. A short story. Across the street from my house is the wildlife refuge over there. There was a garage that was falling down. There were 2 open foundations. I communicated several times with them, saying that this is a danger. They had originally, when they bought the property, put snow fence around it. Okay? After one winter, all the snow fence is down, and they didn't do anything about it. I even got your building inspector to issue a violation on DEC. They laughed and they said, wait a second, you can't issue us a violation because we're the big guys, you're the little guy. So I took all that information. I then sent them an email with copies of all my communications with them. And I said, if I don't hear from somebody on a resolution of this, I'm going to the newspaper. I then came to town hall to make copies. By the time I got home, there was an answer, there was a phone call to my house. The next day I met with a gentleman, and the next week it was corrected. What I'm suggesting to you is this. What they say on the phone, why aren't they here tonight? Why aren't they here tonight? And what I'm suggesting to you is this. It is very easy for me to say no on the phone. It is very easy for me on a text message to say no. What I'm suggesting is put some pressure on them. You may think you're little people, but there's a lot of little people here. And I don't think you can fault me for saying that the LabCorp site is a bad site. I mean, the vendor here himself is saying that site works. And in fact, it's closer to the 164 site, which means any problems with radio frequencies should be reduced. So all I'm asking you to do is get it out there and push for something. Ask them to explain how in 3 years ago, that site wasn't good because of radio frequency, now all of a sudden it's good. I think this has a lot to do with politics, and I think what we really need to do is for you folks to stand up and say, we will work, if we have to take this project away from the planning board and fast track it, we will do that. Other towns do it all the time. Town of Southeast has done it. You have the authority to do it. All you need to do is the willpower to pick up the phone and say, we really find these sites to be bad. Just remember, if that cell tower falls, and I'm not suggesting he doesn't do a good job. I'm sure their cell towers are built, although he doesn't build them. He actually has someone else who build them. If that site is a weakened site, if that falls on the landfill, that can puncture the skin, which is what DEC raised. The other question is, why on the other 2 sites, why all of a sudden A and B aren't good and C is good? They're looking to get a little further down the track. And what I'm suggesting to you is, that may not be such a good idea. And I really think the name of the game now is getting out there and publicly saying to the MTA, please come and sit down with us. We have a viable solution that will be good for this community, and this is what we're asking you to do. Thank you.
Bruce, with all due respect, you weren't sitting in on the conference calls. You weren't apprised of the information that we have listened to and the meetings that we have endured for 3 years. This is not a good thing. This is not about being a NIMBY or lack thereof. For full disclosure, I live on Somerset Drive. Neither site would be visible to me. But as I stated, it's not about me. What Supervisor Williams said, if the LabCorp site was where the pole would be, it would be directly behind former Councilman Kevin Burns' house, which would then adversely impact the whole back end of Somerset Drive. Now, you have worked unilaterally for your own objective through this whole process, but the town board and elected officials have to work for the greater good. So that's the evaluation. And you can certainly take that advice, but my advice would be to you, do you really want to gamble with the MTA and think that if you could go back and call the shots, that they're going to reverse their decision? They have made it very clear to Rich and I that they are on a tight timeline. They've worked with us. They gave us the benefit of the doubt, so the resident on 164 and the environment is not jeopardized, would not have a pole as soon as he opened his front door, thus losing every ounce of equity that he may have. They did us a favor in that regard, and I think that overture was in good faith. It stinks no matter what. Nobody's here in favor, as was stated here as well. This is not going to be the first one. It's not going to be the last one. I have personal objections myself. I don't want to be inundated with a monopole at the firehouse and a monopole at the Baptist church and a monopole at the landfill or whatever other site may be of choice. But this is the way technology is rolling, and as stated by the attorney, the MTA supersedes any regulations that the town imposes. So we have very little choice here. And to say that we could just go back and start renegotiating, it took the county over 2 years to get their frequencies. It's going to take a very long time. They don't have the time on their side, and that was the essence of what was said. It wasn't entertaining another site. I've spoken to many town board members. They're really not very proficient in knowing anything about the LabCorp site, so that's why I asked the question, what vetting process did this go through for the entertainment of it in the first place? It begs the question. But that's not even the issue. So just wait right there. That's not even the issue. The issue is we are with our backs against the wall. It has been very clear that it's either or. So I don't think that we would want to gamble and have it sitting at 164 and ruining people's lives to that degree. Yes, it has an adverse effect on everyone in the town, but this is the reality of it all. Thank you.
Just one follow-up to that. In case you didn't know, I did provide to the town aerials at 160 feet, 360 aerials for all 3 sites was provided to the town. If you look at those, you get a sense of what communities can see them and what communities can't see them. And I'm sure that those things have been shared with you. And if you haven't looked at them, I would hope that you take the time to look at them. But I still think it's easy for me to say no on the phone. It's a lot different when you ask for a meeting, when you ask, when the news media gets wind that this is where you want it, because it benefits this town as a whole. I think that's a plus. Get it out into the newspaper and see what they have to say. Thank you very much.
Please.
No, just 1 second. I know she does. But, you know, I just want to be clear with everybody here that When this started back in 2015, everybody told me that it was an absolute waste of time to try to work with Metro North to find some sort of alternate solution. And I didn't listen to them then. And I did whatever I could for the benefit of this community to try to find the best location for that tower and an alternate location for that tower. And as Bruce pointed out tonight, when we looked at the wetlands, they said it can't work because there's wetlands on the site. And I refuted that and made them go back and look again. And when we started looking at the recycling center, and they came back, and Bruce read it tonight, that, they said, well, it's too wet, and it's not gonna work, and it's gonna damage the landfill. And I refuted that, and I fought back for this community. And I think I've been, for 3 years now, very good about working with Metro North, but keeping them on a track to look at and evaluate alternate locations. And I've done it, and I've worked as hard as anybody to try to find a better location than the Route 164 site. I have. And I'm telling you all now, I've talked to Metro North, and they are at the end of the line. They have waited 3 years for the town to work out a solution. And unfortunately, we went with a couple of companies that provide cell towers that didn't work out. And here we are today. And so I am telling everybody tonight, the LapCorp property is not an option. That Metro North is either going to build the Route 164 site, which frankly, I think is what they want to do in the first place, or they are willing to stay in the game if we can get the site at the landfill, at the recycling center, done in very short order. Those are the two options we have. Thank you.
My name is Lisa Feiner, and I live on Mountain View Road. I just wanted to step up because you had mentioned that there was no one here from that location. I'm telling you that we will be staring directly at that tower at the 164 site. And I can't understand why Metro North would want to put it there for so many reasons: the wetlands, the birds, the crowdedness, the mountains. It just doesn't make any sense. So I appreciate trying to find any other location. But yes, there is someone here from that spot, and I will be looking at it as close as I am to you if that tower goes on 164. Thank you.
Good evening.
How are you, Margaret?
Good evening. I'm Margaret Kessman. I live on Route 1, Cornwall Hill Road, next to the recycling center. So I'm here to ask for consideration not to put it at the recycling center. I'm asking the reason, what rights do the people on 164 have over the people over on Cornwall Hill Road? Why? Because maybe they have a few more people than we do. They have some ducks. I mean, I'm living next door. My house is going to be devalued. I'm not only looking at it, I'm the piece of property right next door to it. So of course my house is going to be devalued. By you choosing the recycling center, you're choosing to devalue my home and discriminating us on this side of the tracks against the people on 164 by you choosing the recycling center.
Margaret, what would you do if you were in our position?
I'd wash my hands of it and let them put it on their own property. So you're not choosing. So that lifts
inaction.
responsibility of the town. Just let them put it on their own piece of property and be done with it.
There is an old Japanese saying, no action is an action. And by
I know what I was
taking no
thinking.
action, we're in a
Taking
sense,
action.
making it happen at 164.
Yeah.
So,
Your position is put it at the recycle center then.
up to the mic. And my position is I'm listening, and I have not made a decision.
As I have said, and some people have spoken tonight, haven't been showing up at the town board meetings when this has been on the agenda. As you know, I have.
But you show up for everything.
I show up
You're
for
here
everything. But the point I'm going to make is this. I am saying that the 164 site is a bad site. You've heard me say that.
Agreed.
And I agree, yeah, you could wash your hands, but I'd have no respect for you if you did that. Okay? I will respect you if you're willing to stand up to MTA. Because the people, like she said, the people on this side of the track, and I hate using that analogy, but they have similar concerns, okay? And all I'm suggesting, and we have two news media here, I would hope that when you write your article, before you finish your article, pick up the phone and call MTA. Try speaking to someone. I think I gave you the name, Mr. Cohn, C-O-A-N.
That's not really somebody that's been involved for a very long
Well,
time.
call the MTA. As a matter of fact, ask the supervisor at the end of the meeting for the list of those people at the MTA that both Jenny and Rich have been dealing with, and call them. Let them know what happened here tonight, and let them know how some people feel. Now, I happen to disagree with people say, give it to them rather than us. I've said that all along. And when I come up here, I always say, I'm the one who can see it on Cornwall Hill Road, okay? But just remember one thing, that site where you're going to put it, if you're gonna put it at the landfill, that's a wet site. If you're gonna put it, you're better off at the other two sites. I don't know why they didn't pick them. And just remember, there are articles, there are videos, you can go to YouTube. These cell towers fail from time to time. You have a softball field there. I know it's not being used right now, but you have a softball field, and hopefully you'll be able to get a new league going there. And you also have a landfill that can be punctured. So one would hope that you in the news media, you're in a position to help here, okay? So I'm looking forward to you writing an article and hopefully getting some comment from them. Thank you.
Mr. Kessman, now that you're back at your seat. Sorry. All right.
It just should be noted that we've made every effort to do our due diligence in this decision-making. Yeah, there are many times that I cannot attend a town board meeting because it's conflicting with the legislative meeting, but we've sat for 3 years and worked with all the parties involved to try to come to something amicable. But I think you're missing the entire point here this evening. The point is that our backs are against the wall and the choice has been given with very little recourse as to exploring other sites. So whether you choose to elaborate on whether or not another site is better or feasible and more conducive, that's irrelevant at this point in time. The town board's decision tonight is based on whether they're going to try to call the MTA's bluff and say, okay, give us more time, we're going to look at another site, and they're going to adhere to it. They're not going to be bullied into submission, that I could tell you. We've worked with them, they understand that there's pushback with every monopole that they erect in every community. So that's not going to work. So thank you.
One of the concerns that I have is that we could very easily make a decision to put a tower on the rec center. And 2 years from now, MTA could come in and say, you know what, we decided we want our cell tower on 164 anyway, because we own the property and we can do it regardless of you guys. So there's always the possibility we could end up with both towers. That's just, you know.
There's always the possibility,
Yeah.
and you're very cognizant of the fact that there might be more towers
Yeah.
forthcoming.
And there will
But
be.
that's not, tonight's
No, I'm just-
decision, if you're making a decision tonight, is based with the cards that were dealt to you.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little naive to say we're going to stamp our feet, protest, and it's going to get into the newspapers and they're going to reverse their decision. I firmly believe that they're not going to reverse their decision. This isn't a personal debate between neighbor to neighbor. I'm on your side, I'm on your team, but I know the work that we have done for the last 3 years to try to get this to a point that would have the least adverse effect on as many residents in the community. That's the decision. That's the decision for this board, and I hope you make the right decision. Thank you.
I would just like to say, I don't think tonight I asked you to bully the MTA. No, I didn't. I asked you, the town board, to go to the MTA and say, there are very good reasons why the cell tower at the Lapcore property would benefit this town and in fact help benefit the rail trail that they're responsible for overseeing the management
I
of.
think that conversation was not had. I'm sorry, but Richie has been.
And yet you continue.
And yet the reality is this: conversations in offices are great, conversations on phones are great. Sometimes what you need is an article in the paper where the town is saying, we would really like MTA to consider this other site, and we, the town board, because it will benefit our town, will bend over backwards to help you get it approved. That's all that I'm saying. Thank you very much.
Does anybody else wish to be heard tonight? All right, with that, I can tell you we are not going to make any decision tonight on this application. I will tell you, contrary to what somebody may have insinuated, that I have had conversations with each individual town board member, and nobody is firmly set on one location or another. As you know, we've all, as Sean has said, as I've said, you know, this is not a good choice that we want to make, and so we're still trying to figure out what is best for our community. I will also say, Bruce, that evaluating the Lapcore property, not my money, it's not your money. It's somebody else's money. And so I will pick up the phone tomorrow and call them to see if there's any interest in their further evaluating the Lapcore site. I would be surprised if they said yes, but I will ask the question. And based on that, I'll see where we go. But I still believe that we don't have any choice in this situation.
One last comment, because Bruce, you got me thinking about, we have this wonderful project that's proposed, this Lapcore site, right? What we don't do well as a community, and boy, the person sitting behind you will pat you on the back after we say this, is that we don't support our local businesses as much as we should. Kessman Farms, Reverie Cafe right down the road, these businesses that we have that are dying. It's just at the a local shop. He's had his place for rent and office space for 10 years, the barber shop next door.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cannot rent a simple retail or office space, dying, because we don't support our own community. I mean, hey, I buy stuff on Amazon also, but the bottom line is we need to support our own community. First and foremost, go to our local restaurants. Make sure we support. We have people that had wonderful businesses in this community, the backbone of this community, Kessman Farms. I mean, this is like, you know, salt of the earth kind of stuff. And they're not around anymore. Why? Because the community doesn't support them when they're going through troubles. At the end of the day, people don't want to see condos develop, but they're not willing to put their money where their mouth is and support their local community. So that's, I think, a wake-up call, and I think it needed to be said that, you know, we're all to blame, every one of us, myself included, that we don't support our local merchants and our local community as much as we need to. Because Lapcore has a great chance if we all go there. I don't know if you're going to go play paintball or airsoft or whatever, but you know what?
If you're there, Sean.
You and I'll do it. But I want to be on the same team as you.
Yes.
Because I heard you were a marksman in the police department, so I don't
real
want to,
bullets.
So I want to be on your team. But you know, we do get focused in on one particular issue at any time. These are town board meetings, but we need to remember the holistic part of our community. There's a lot going on, and we need to focus in on what's best for our community, not just with this decision, but with lots of decisions. I mean, look at some of the difficult things we've dealt with in the last couple of years with our EMS department. I firsthand witnessed an EMS call at my sister-in-law's house when an elderly person broke a hip. And I can tell you that every penny we spent for that EMS service was well done, because the service that they got was outstanding and worth every penny. And so, well, and hopefully so, absolutely. But what I'm saying is that there are decisions that we make that are for the betterment of the community at that time. Sometimes we don't make the right decision, but we're hopefully guided by some wisdom and some common sense. And you know, it's not easy. Bruce, you know, you had considered a run for this and decided not to, because it's not for everyone. This is not, you know, as much as easy as maybe some people think it is. So we need people to be involved in our community. We need people to support our community. And I would just hope that people would remember that. So, thank you.
I just want to say, make everyone aware that I actually live on Somerset Drive also. And I have 2 children in the same development that own homes. One is in the back of Hampshire Court, and the other one is right next door to me on Somerset. So either site we engage in will actually affect my entire family. But my main concern is that whatever site we do engage in, that there's a deadline with MTA, and I'm concerned that we could end up, even if we begin construction, that it might not be swift enough for them, and we may end up with them starting construction somewhere else. So, that's my concern.
Is there anybody, how many houses are there on Somerset?
There's a
'Cause
lot.
There's quite a
I'm
few.
teasing, of course, but it seems like we have a lot of Somerset.
Well, it was very well said about the businesses. I concur wholeheartedly. And with that, we are going to move on with our regular agenda. So, can I get a motion on the reports?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the July reports for code compliance, code enforcement, dog control officer, and the Patterson Fire Department's second quarter report. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion on the supervisor's reports?
Make a motion to accept the supervisory report.
Why don't you give it a second?
Should I take this personally? Everyone's leaving when I start talking.
Thank you, Bruce.
You don't want to stay for this? It may get interesting.
Christine.
Let's go.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to accept the supervisory report for May and June. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can I get a motion on the minutes?
I'd like to make a motion for the town board to approve the minutes from the following meetings: June 27th, 2018, July 11th, 2018, July 25th, 2018. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Somebody like to audit bills?
I will make a motion that the town board approve abstract number 14 dated July 27th, 2018, in the amount of $402,307.82. So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Peter.
All right. First
Yeah, I
item.
was just giving it a little bit of
Yeah, I
time.
think they're,
And for the elevator.
thank you.
All right, Peter.
All right, the first item on my agenda is we have a letter from our EMS supervisor, Denise Montana. She's requesting to take a training course. She's requesting to attend the leadership seminar, Effectively Managing the Complex, Challenging, and Obscure Business of EMS, which sounds very interesting. Sounds right up our alley, what we need here. It's only going to cost $100, so I'd like to make a motion to approve $100 to send Ms. Montana to this training.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second item, I have budget transfers. I'd like to make a motion to accept budget transfer request number 19 for $100 from contingency account to receiver of taxes training. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Second budget adjustment request number 20 for $30,000 from appropriated fund balance to park equipment and capital outlay. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That park equipment really looks great.
It does.
Put in there, Veterans
It does.
Memorial Park, really nice.
I just have one more thing. I just want to thank everyone who came out last night to the National Night Out event. We had a little bit of rain earlier in the day, which made the field very, very squishy, which kind of put a damper on our to start off the event, and then we got a downpour in the middle of the event. But I think the good hour and a half we had, it was a good time.
It
And,
was a great event, Pete, and, you know, I want to just congratulate you for putting it all together. I mean, I know how much hard work you put into getting that up and running, so thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thanks. And I want to thank all the elected officials, especially the town board, for not only attending last night, but just standing with the district attorney and the sheriff's department and the community, just standing in unity to fight against crime, especially the to fight against the opioid epidemic. I want to thank our town clerk for coming out as well, for supporting us, and Ginny Nasserino, our county legislator, was there. So it was a good night, and I also especially want to thank the Pat Ploger and the Park Advisory Board and the Neighborhood Watch group there that really did an outstanding job putting it all together and making it fun. We have plenty of hot dogs left.
Pat is a force to be reckoned with, isn't she?
Yes, absolutely.
She's
So
amazing.
thank you.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's it.
Charles, next on the town's agenda is the Commercial Drive Road Maintenance Agreement, and I understand council would like to make a few comments before we go further.
Yes, I met just before the meeting with Christine and Peter Monteleone. What's occurred is there was a form circulated and some changes were made, and then signatures were obtained from certain of the lot owners. But in reviewing the form in advance of tonight's meeting and prepping our resolution, I noted several things that I think need to be addressed for the mutual benefit of the town and the lot owners. So there are some comments that I've already discussed with Christine and Peter, and we would propose some changes to what has been already circulated.
Okay, so we'll just hold this over.
If I think we could be in a position to proceed. I don't think it's that the changes are going to be so major as to alter the concept of the agreement, which is essentially ensuring that there's a mechanism in place for the lot owners to share proportionately in the costs of repairs and maintenance. I'd categorize some of the issues as ones of kind of scope, because there is currently a monetary limit on what can be done. I think it's a matter of sorting out whether that amount should be increased, and also the percentages that have to be obtained. If it might be going a little bit beyond what we typically would do as far as the number of changes that would be authorized to be made in the supervisor's and town attorney's discretion. But I think the interaction with the lot owners and having the basic form in place the way it is goes a long way to have it finalized. So I think we'd be in a position to do it. And then if it turns out that there are items that require negotiation, or that there's pushback from the lot owners, then I think we can always say that it's being put back on the agenda for consideration. So.
And there is language within this resolution where it states, consistent with the terms hereof, and in such form as satisfactory to the town supervisor and town attorney.
Okay. I think in this case, Charlie, it's a situation where Christine and Peter have so much work to do to coordinate with 12 other lot owners that if we can reduce the procedural steps that they have to go through, it'll make things a lot easier in getting it implemented.
All right, so based on Don's comments here, we can move forward with this.
Yes.
And just for people's understanding, I'm going to paraphrase some of this resolution, that Commerce Drive is a private road. The resolution before us is to approve a road maintenance agreement that encompasses, like Don said, all the property owners on Commerce Drive. And the reason for the town being involved is, and I'm going to read this right from the resolution, the town of Patterson has an interest in ensuring that the owners of the lots adequately maintain and repair Commerce Drive in order to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of town residents and their guests. Let me think here. I'll just read this other one also. In order to ensure the owners adequately maintain Commerce Drive, the town desires to enter into a certain road maintenance agreement, this one, with the owners, to establishing binding obligations on the owners as to work to be performed, and pay each owner's proportionate share of the costs incurred, and authorizing the town, in an event of failure of the owners to do so, to contract for necessary repairs and maintenance which the town is, in its sole discretion, deems reasonably necessary, and charge back the cost of such repair and maintenance to the owners of the lots. So, having said that as an explanation why the town is involved with this, I will make a motion that the town board approve the resolution relative to the road maintenance agreement for Commerce Drive, that it incorporates the comments from council, and that, would you read that, Rich, the bottom one there?
Last paragraph.
Yes, resolved that the town board of town of Patterson hereby authorizes and directs the supervisor to execute the road maintenance agreement and all other documents necessary to give effect to this resolution. And that the town supervisor approves and ratifies all acts hereof taken by the town board. So I'll make the motion for the town board approve this based on those conditions. So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. That's it for me.
Sean?
All right, first item we have is a very simple request from Patricia Books of our fiscal office. This is in follow-up to something that we did earlier. Good night, Pete and Christine. And this is simply setting the rate of pay to $15 an hour for the junior guards with 1 year experience. It's a follow-up to an action that the town board made previously, and it just authorizes fiscal payment for their service. So I will move that request.
So to be clear, we're setting the rate for junior guards when they are acting as head guards.
Correct, $15 an hour.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So glad you sit next to me. And second is a simple stormwater management agreement for the Clancy Property LLC. This maintenance agreement is for access for stormwater improvements for that site. So I'll make a motion that we approve the stormwater management agreement as submitted. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, first on my agenda tonight is Target Solutions proposal. Unfortunately, late today, we were contacted by Target, and they're proposing a change from what we previously anticipated was going to be the cost for this program. So we need to sit back down at the table with them and talk a little bit more. So I'm going to ask that we table that. Second on my agenda is an executive session. I've been in discussion with our local CSEA, highway and sanitation employees, about their contract, which expires the end of this year. I have an agreement to propose to the town board, and we'll work on the terms and possibly come out of executive session and resolve the issues with the contract. I also need to add one item to my agenda, and that's an executive session personnel, because we do have a personnel issue now that we need to talk about. Nothing critical. We've got some of the best employees here in the building and out on the streets taking care of our residents. So, Mary.
Okay. I have a few requests from the Recreation Center. The first one is the program prices. The following prices will be in effect for the upcoming programs for the fall. I'm going to just read through them in the event that some of them have changed from last year. They have Cupcake Wars is $145 per child and $135 for each additional sibling. We have Little Cooks, the program will be $99. We have Pizza Night will be $12. Soccer is $60. Tumble Time will run $80. Just Dance is $70. And for the tag sale, $25 for a space rental, at $10 if you need a table for that space. Holiday Bazaar is the same, $25 for the space, $10 additional if you'd like to get a table. They have pre-K school, $325 per month for 5 days a week, $275 per month for 3 days per week, $175 per month for 2 days a week. And flag football, again, $80 if you already have their black and gray jersey, $95 if you don't come with your previously purchased black and gray jersey. So I'd like to motion to approve the previously announced rates for the upcoming programs. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, that was a lot. Can ask them to give them to us like week at a time. Okay, so the next request from the rec center is for flag football. This would be those black and gray jerseys that we just talked about. Matt took a few price quotes. One company could not supply the jerseys, and the other one was YBA shirts. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of 100 black and gray jerseys at $13.49 per jersey and $100 for delivery, so not to exceed more than $14.49. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next request from the rec center, they'd like to purchase 40 soccer jerseys. They took two prices, one from Select Sportswear, which was the lowest bidder. The other one was Custom Ink, and they were too high, so I'd like to motion to approve the purchase of 36 jerseys at $10.50 apiece and 4 adult jerseys at $12.50 apiece, in the amount not to exceed more than $428. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that's all I have.
Very good. Other business? Any town board member have any other business? Sean?
No.
Mary?
No, I was just gonna mention to Pete that, you know, the National Night Out that was the first time Brewster Transportation participated, and I thank you for that, because I really wanted to get in there and bring the bus drivers, because if anyone doesn't know, or you possibly might know, but that the bus drivers and the monitors that ride those buses are covering the entire town of Patterson, Putnam Lake, and they call into the office when they see anything, and they're a really big part of the community watch, and I'd just like to acknowledge that, because they've called in, you know, they call in dogs lost, you know, someone in the road, they see suspicious vehicles, and they're on top of their game with that, so look
Great.
forward to going there again next year.
Yeah.
Spending more time.
Maybe we could find a way to incorporate the school district into our neighborhood watch program in some trainings and stuff.
Yeah, that would be great. They love to call that stuff in too. Makes it feel good.
Charlie?
No, I'm good.
All right, I do have one piece of other business, just an FYI, I will be sending out tomorrow. We have a draft shared services plan. As you're all aware, the town supervisors have been meeting with the county, and a consultant has been retained by the county to try to develop a shared services plan. So I will be sending that out to all the town board members tomorrow. Any comments, I would like them back in by August 31st. I believe the legislature has to have their comments in as well by August 31st. So we're on a short time frame here, so we're going to need to move this away. Well, listen, it's almost,
What else is new?
it's almost a month. So. Okay, public recognition. Going once.
Twice.
Yep.
You come up to the mic, just give your name.
Hi, my name is Renee Reynoso, and my husband Caesar and I just purchased the property at 556 Lakeshore Drive, and on Saturday we moved in, so we just wanted to come and participate in the local community, and I've met Mary already, and we're really excited to become involved in our community.
Well, thank you.
Thanks. Do you have anything in particular you'd like to get involved in?
Maybe I'll talk with Mary about that, because I really like the recreation things.
Okay.
Well,
All right, welcome to our community.
It's nice.
Anyone else? Motion to go into executive session?
Motion to go into executive session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.